Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to start the video by giving all glory, honor, and praise to the Most High, Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi. Alright, so I was on Facebook, and I came across this post right here. Right, because as most of us know, man, in Africa there's a lot of false prophets out there. Right, there are a lot of false prophets out there who do things that are questionable and that are contrary to to the doctrine that's in the scriptures, man. Right, so in this picture right here, this was some Christian church. I don't know the name of it, right? But they had some Holy Communion. I don't know how to pronounce that well. They had a Holy Communion, right? Yeah, they had a Holy Communion whereby they made their congregation to eat swine's flesh, right? They had a congregation to eat swine's flesh. I also had some other so-called preachers, who made their congregation drink things like petrol and whatever. All right, so these are some of the things that are happening in Africa, man. So this is fairly recent. All right, and if you look at the definition of Holy Communion, right? This is a definition. So if you read number 2 here, right? It says the service of Christian worship at which bread and wine are consecrated and shared. Right. So you see here, it talks about bread and wine. Right. And we understand, man, like ultimately when you look at Christianity, it's not really a religion that is based on the scriptures, right? A large majority of it. Right, it says the service of Christian worship at which bread and wine are consecrated and shared. Right, and I took the liberty to search the definition of consecrated. Right, it says, now this is an adjective, it says of a church or land having been made or declared sacred. Right, sacred means holy. Bread and wine in Christian belief declared to represent the body and blood of Christ. Here I'm just saying Christ because it's referring to Christianity, right? But those of us who are in the in the Israelite community of faith, we know that the Savior's name is Yahawashi, right? So as you can see, man, in the scriptures they shared bread and wine, but what that pastor did is made Holy Communion with swine, man. And when you go read in Leviticus chapter 11, swine, it's one of those food that we cannot eat because it's unclean, right? So I've prepared some couple of scriptures beforehand. So I'm going to start off here in First Maccabees, right? So I'm going to say, and it happened after that, Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Shittim, had smitten Darius, king of Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead over the first over Greece, right? So this was the beginning of Israelites going under Greek captivity, And ultimately we've been under various captivities, right? So I'm going to be reading from verse 44. It says, "For the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land." And the strange laws of the land, meaning the laws that were passed by that king, right? It says, "And forbid burnt offerings and sacrifices and drink offerings in the temple, that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people." Right? So they pretty much passed those laws to pollute the sanctuary and the holy people. Right? Set up altars and groves, chapels of idols, sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beast. Right? So those were some of the things that our forefathers were made to do, man. It says that they should also leave their children uncircumcised and make their souls abominable with all men of uncleanness and profanation, to the end that they should forget the law and change all the ordinances. Right? So pretty much, man, like swine is one of those foods. Let me not even say food, because that thing is not a food, right? We don't eat that thing. The heathens do, but we are not to eat it. So swine is one of those things that our forefathers were made to eat, to the end that they should forget the law and the ordinances, and to make them abominable, man. And you got this. Then and you have this stupid pastor, man. Let me not even call him a pastor, bro. You got this stupid guy here making, the people eat swine's flesh, man, calling it Holy Communion, right? So you got this man doing this thing, right? And I'm pretty sure this is not the first time it has happened. I'm sure this is not the first time it has happened. Right. And also on that Maccabees, right? So also one of the things that the king passed was so that the people could forget their laws, and that they should all be one, like one people. Okay. One people. And this thing, man, it's the same thing that is happening again, right? Because this Christian religion, it teaches this oneness of all races and whatever, and biblically that cannot happen, right? It cannot happen, man. It cannot, right? It says this, Ezekiel 22 verse 26. It says, verse 25. Let me start at 24. No, let me start at 23. It says, "And the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, say unto her, Thou art the land that is not cleansed, right, nor rained upon in the day of indignation." Right. Let me open this thing on my Sword Bible app. I was on Ezekiel 22. Yeah, and it says, "And the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, say unto her, right, Thou art the land that is not cleansed, nor rained upon in the day of indignation. It says there is a conspiracy of her prophets, right, in the midst thereof, like a roaring lion. They pray. And remember, when you go read in the New Testament, it says the devil is like a roaring lion seeking those whom he may devour, right? So, man, pretty much you got these prophets out here acting like the devil, man, right? They're out here acting like the devil, like it says here, in the midst of like a roaring lion, ravening the prey. It says they have devoured souls. They have taken the treasure and precious things. They have made her many widows in the midst thereof. It says, her priests have violated my law, right, and have profaned mine holy things, right. It says they have violated my law, right, the law of Yahawah. And what is that law, man? you know, in this video, man, like that law, as I mentioned earlier, it's the law regarding the beasts of the field that we may eat and not eat, right? And if you go in Leviticus chapter 11, the things that we shouldn't eat, it's swine's flesh, man. So you eating swine's flesh, you're pretty much violating the law of Yahawah, right? And also that Holy Communion thing, that's a holy thing, man, and they've profaned it also. Okay, it says they have put no difference between holy and profane, right? And when you look at the definition of profane here, it says unholy, right? It says profaneness, commonness, unholy, right? So pretty much they made no difference between holy and unholy, right? So when it says they put no difference, man, simply means that they disregard whether it's holy or not, right? Meaning that they don't care, man. Right? And also, one of the things that I've heard people talk about, they say, because remember when Yahawashi cast out demons, right? And then they wanted him to cast them on the swines, right? And you hear people saying, like because those 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 swine died, right? Because remember they ran into the water there, right? So now they take it to say that they can eat swine's flesh because the swines that had demons in it, they died, right? So pretty much, man, they disregard the law. They put no difference between holy and unholy, right? And as you read in Maccabees, that's what the world was pushing. That's what the king was pushing, which is what modern Christianity is pushing, right? To the end that they might forget the law, to an extent that they put no difference between that which is clean and that which is unclean. They put no difference between it, man, right? It says, and have hid their eyes from my Sabbaths. I am profane among them. Okay. And here it says, her princes in the midst thereof are like wolves ravening the prey, to shed blood and to destroy souls, to get dishonest gains. And that's exactly what they do, man. Right? And here when it says to destroy souls, man, it's pretty much making their souls abominable. Right? Because like the souls that are abominable, they're gonna get destroyed. Okay. And so here it says to destroy souls and to get dishonest gains. And in Christianity, man, that's exactly what you do. And me personally, I have been in a Christian religion before I came into the truth. I wasn't particularly a fan of eating pork. Whenever I would eat it, I would get like muscle weakness, I would get mucus, and pretty much it destroyed my gut lining, man. Like this swine thing, right? But here it says to get dishonest gain, which is what they do, right? And here, man, when I was in Christian religion, you know, they'd open they would open the the doors of whatever the place that they're worshiping in, right? But the moment when they had to pay the tithes or whatever the heck they call them, right, whatever they wanted people to pay tithes, they started to close the doors and said, we are looking out for your safety or whatever, which is a lie, man. Like, how can you look for someone's safety when they have to pay, right? But then you didn't close the doors looking out for their safety before the tithing, right? Doesn't make sense, man. But ultimately, they trying to get dishonest gain, man. And it says, and her prophets have dabbed them with untempered mortar, right? Seeing vanity and divining lies, and which is exactly what they do in this religion. Especially these evangelical preachers, man. I'm just calling them preachers. We know they are false preachers, right? And especially these ones, they call themselves prophet, whatever, prophetess, or whatever titles they got. Right? That's what they do, right? Saying, "Thus saith the Lord," when Yahawah, the Lord, hath not spoken, right? The people of the land have used oppression, exerted rob the needy, yea, they have oppressed the stranger wrongfully, right? And the Lord is going to consume them, man, right? And the Lord is going to consume them, right? Because ultimately, in these religions, man, these people are pretty much worshiping a different God, right? And we know for a fact that that God is not the God of the scriptures, right? Because as Yahawashi said in John chapter 4 and verse 22, when it says, "You worship not what ye know," right? And we worship what we know, right? That's pretty much what they're doing, man. They're worshiping a different God than the one we are worshiping, right? Although they hide behind this facade of Christianity, man, right? Ultimately these people are worshiping a different God than the God we are worshiping, right? And they're gonna pay, bro. Especially these preachers that are leading people, in pitfalls, man. They're gonna pay heavily, right? Because here, this is Isaiah 65. I'm gonna read from verse 2. It says, "I have spread out my hands all the way unto a rebellious people, which walketh in a way that was not good." Right? And the way that was not good, man, it was going against the laws, statutes, and commandments, man. Right? And it says, "After their own thoughts," right? "A people that provoketh me to anger continually to my face, that sanctifieth in gardens, and burneth incense upon altars of brick, which remain among the graves, and lodge in the monuments, right? Which eat swine's flesh, right? And broth of abominable things in their vessel." And indeed, man, like the Lord has spread out his hands, right? Because now, we have the doors of repentance opened up, right? So this is the Lord extending his hands, man, spreading out his hands, right? And these people don't regard this, man. Right? They don't regard it, right? Because we know when we read, I can't remember if it was Ezekiel, where it says, like the people were saying to the prophet, "Prophesy unto us smooth things," right? And this is what the things that they want. These are the things that they want to hear. They don't want to hear the laws of Yahawah, man, right? They don't care none about that, right? They really don't care about that. Right? So even here, man, I had a couple of pictures on this thing. Right? You can see, man, like this guy is straight up eating that abominable thing. He is, bruh. You can see it, it's in his mouth there. You can see they got the cross. Got the cross right there. Christian religion. And look at this man, bro. He's feeding his congregation this abominable thing, right? He's feeding his congregation this abominable thing, bro. That's what they do, man. And the Most High is gonna, man. These people are gonna pay, bro. Right? Because like swine, man. It's one of those unclean things that Yahawah speaks explicitly against. It's one of those things he explicitly speak against, man. Right? He abhors that thing. Okay. He abhors that thing. Right, now this is the book of Isaiah chapter 66, and I'm going to be reading from verse 15. Right, it says, "For behold, Yahawah will come with fire and with chariots like a whirlwind, right, to render his anger with fury and his rebuke with flames of fire." Right, so this is talking about the second coming, man. This is talking about the second coming here, right? Because when you go read in Revelation chapter 1, where it says, "Behold, he cometh with clouds, and all eyes see him." Right? Speaking of Yahawashi, right? To render his anger, man, just for by fire and by his sword, right? Will the Lord plead with all flesh, right? And we know the scripture says, Yahawah has a strength in the whirlwind, man. Right? Those chariots are his sword, right? Those chariots are also his sword, man, because they shoot out fire, right? It says, "Will the Lord plead with all flesh, right? And the slain of Yahawah shall be many, right? They that sanctify themselves and purify themselves in the gardens, right, behind one tree in the midst, eating swine's flesh, and the abomination and the mouse shall be consumed together, saith Yahawah." Right? So they're gonna get consumed, man. In this second coming, they're gonna get consumed. Right? Because you got people who are out there thinking, like the Lord won't kill me for eating swine's flesh. Right? But that's what the scriptures are saying, man. Right? It says, "They that sanctify themselves," right? To sanctify, let me look at it. It says, "To consecrate, sanctify, prepare." Right? Remember when I showed you the definition of Holy Communion, right? It says what? It said it was a. Let me open it again. Right? It says, "The service of Christian worship at which bread and wines are consecrated and shared." Consecrated means holy, right? So you got it here. Consecrated, declared to be the present, to represent the body and blood of Hamashiach, right? So to sanctify here, as it says, man, to consecrate, to prepare, to dedicate, to be hallowed, as it says here, it says, "Be holy, be sanctified, be separate," right? So pretty much even those who consume these things as if it's a holy thing, right? They that sanctify themselves and purify themselves in the gardens behind one tree in the midst, eating swine's flesh, and the abomination and the mouse shall be consumed together, saith Yahawah. Right? It says, for I know their works and their thoughts. It shall come that I will gather all nations and tongues, and they shall come and see my glory. So man, like these people, they're not gonna, man, right? Because as we read in the scriptures, those that sanctify themselves eating swine's flesh, which is exactly what was happening, in those pictures, man. They're gonna get consumed. They're gonna get consumed, man. All right. So with that, I hope you've been edified. And for all of you Akim out there, like before you go buy anything to eat, man, like make sure the thing doesn't have pork in it, man. Make sure it doesn't have swine. All right. Shalom.